So late yesterday afternoon, I got a text message at home, and it said that Governor Otter had endorsed John Kasich for president, at least endorsing him a little less than 2 weeks before the Idaho Republican primary, which is coming up on March 8th. We will have special coverage of that event here on News Radio 1310, KLIX, and newsradio1310.com. I'll be joined by Benito Baeza and Andrew Weeks, and the three of us likely may even have a guest or two on of some larger stature. After the polls close that night, we'll be chatting with all of you about the results and getting some of the feedback. I am not at all surprised by the governor's decision. And if you didn't know it, I brought this up on the air with him some months ago. I said, "Are you going to be endorsing John Kasich?" And he said, "I'm not sure yet." And I was aware that when Governor Otter was actually serving in the U.S. House of Representatives, one of his closest friends there happened to be, guess who? John Kasich, who then went on and left and for a time worked at Fox News as a weekend host, and then got elected governor of Ohio. And Governor Otter had said, he said, "I know at this point," this was a few months ago, he said, "I know at this point it will be one of my fellow governors." Now, that narrowed it down at the time to a Chris Christie, who I didn't really think would be on the list of any Idaho governor. Back at the time, Rick Perry had just, I think, dropped out, but Perry would have been perhaps on that short list. You might have had a couple of other names among those governors. I don't think it would have been George Pataki. It might have been Jeb Bush. But I think he was leaning the whole time toward John Kasich. And Kasich is one of those last men standing among the second tier of Republicans. We say second tier because we got to be honest. We talked about this yesterday. It's Donald Trump, and then it's the other four. And really, it's Donald Trump, then two guys, and then two guys behind those two guys. And unfortunately for John Kasich, he is in that last group. He's there with Ben Carson. The two of them still say that they are in this for the long haul and that they see ways that they can mathematically come out ahead and win this thing. But look, they're not delusional people. They just believe if they stick around a little bit longer and the field winnows and maybe finally Donald Trump implodes, and that's likely, I don't think, going to happen. If nothing has sank his battleship yet, I can't see that coming up. But this was last night on the Kelley File on Fox News Channel, and Governor Kasich says he believes the endorsement from Governor Otter is going to turn around his campaign.
We've had a number of people who have signed on in the last 3 days. Today it was Governor Butch Otter. Just a couple days ago it was Tom Ridge, the former Homeland Security Chief for George Bush. We have a number of financial people who have signed on. Because you see, Megan, the people that are calling for me to get out, many of them are people that are inside the Beltway.
We all tend to think of our own parts of the universe as being really the center of everything. On the other hand, if you're anybody else in America, Governor Bullock in Montana, you remember his name because he's got a last name that sounds like cattle, right? And Governor Sandoval over in Nevada, you may have heard his name because the last few days he's been rumored to be an appointee. He's a recommended appointee to the U.S. Supreme Court. But for the most part, do you think that anybody elsewhere, right now, before we get to Idaho, there is going to be a huge primary day March 1st, a week before Idaho, and you've got half a dozen states in the Deep South, you've got 3 of them in the northern Midwest, and all of these states will be voting, and do you think that Governor Otter's name registers with any of those people? And when you look at the politics of Idaho, you've got Frank Vandersloot, who really is the kingmaker, and he's backing Marco Rubio. And you've got Jim Risch, who is backing Marco Rubio. And then you've got, we had him on the air yesterday, Raul Labrador backing Ted Cruz. We don't know, I guess, who Mike Simpson is backing, although I would assume it would have been someone like Jeb Bush, but Bush is out. Maybe he's in the Rubio camp. And then we really don't know. I don't believe we've heard who Mike Crapo is backing. So even in Idaho, you've got multiple Republicans, and they're all going in different directions on this. The one thing you can be assured of is none of them will be backing Donald Trump. And that's because they don't really seem to have any kinship with the man. On the other hand, I think it's a very good possibility Donald Trump wins the primary here on March 8th. And then with that, the whole race may be done on March 1st. So by March 8th, Idaho voters may just go and ratify that. And it just may be, hey, everybody else is doing it. Let's get on the bandwagon. Meanwhile, Ben Carson, many people saying that he should be dropping out. There is a story that broke during the course of yesterday afternoon, if you haven't seen this. Now, I don't know that Carson has even the wherewithal to campaign in Idaho. Just last summer, there was a straw poll done at the Twin Falls County Fair, and Carson ran away with that straw poll of Republicans. Trump at the time was still a relatively new presence. When we got to the fair, he had been on the scene maybe not quite a month, although he did well in that too. But Carson was by far and away. He blew everyone else away in that. It was almost as if Carson had his moment in the sun and then it faded quickly. The latest story is that the Political Action Committee, they've got a lot of money. The Political Action Committee that is behind Carson is insisting that he not drop out. Why would that be? Because the people running the Political Action Committee are paying themselves huge salaries. In other words, they're collecting money from the public saying Ben Carson's message is still resonating, and it's only a matter of time before God waves a magic wand, and all of a sudden Trump goes away and Carson will be in the lead. Just keep giving us more money. And oh, by the way, we're paying ourselves hundreds of thousands of dollars. Carson appeared last night on the Kelley File as well, and another candidate trying to defend his presence in this race.
5% of the delegates have been selected already. We got a long way to go. It's like a baseball game. Everybody wants to call the game after the first inning.
I want to ask you about a piece that appeared in National Review by David French, in which he wrote the following. He was addressing you and he was addressing Governor Kasich. And what he wrote was, being a Christian candidate for president means far more than advocacy for life, religious liberty, and the family. It means being humble and self-aware enough to know when your vanity is hurting the country. It's time to deny self, admit defeat, and leave the race. He and so many other Republicans, while they like you, they have concerns that you're a spoiler, in effect, at this point, and that a vote from you is effectively what he said was a vote to destroy the Republican Party. Your thoughts?
My thoughts are that the political establishment, the pundits, like to think that they're in control. And it's really we, the people, who should be in control.
Well, again, if his people in that Political Action Committee are just stringing this out so that they can collect more money from you and then enrich themselves, Mr. Carson, we've heard a lot about people proclaiming to be great Christians in this race. And then we've seen some actions from some of them that would say they may have missed a few sermons. And he may be missing one as well. It's 8:14. Bill Colley with you on Top Story on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. I believe we're going to be joined by a representative a little bit later from the Twin Falls County Sheriff's Department. Not quite sure on that, but I looked at my calendar, and I think today's the day in rotation that we do that. And then in the next hour of the program, we have a candidate, and I'll probably play a bit of devil's advocate with him as well, because he's running as an independent candidate. There we go. I'll get that out. Independent challenger to Mike Simpson. Now, Simpson, I read this listing every week. Randy Staples has a listing of what the various candidates, the incumbents especially, have collected to fund their campaigns, their reelection campaigns. To put it mildly, Mike Simpson, not only does he have a strong base over on the eastern side of the state, in Idaho Falls and Pocatello, he's got a very strong base. He has a huge bank account. So I guess the question is, for any independent running against him, how are you going to make a dent? And saying, well, I'll just go around and people will hear my great ideas and they'll do that. I've had a lot of friends in the past who ran as either third-party candidates or independents, and today they're back at their regular jobs because of their great ideas. They just didn't catch on. And we'll talk to this young fellow a bit later in the program. He's coming up in the next hour of the show. If you'd like to reach the show today, you can give us a call. The number is 736-0300. That's 736-0300. My email is bill.colley@townsquaremedia.com. That's bill.colley@townsquaremedia.com. But, of course, you're listening to News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. On the website, there's a listen live function, which means, of course, you can listen to us anywhere, all over the world, as long as you have an internet connection. Speaking of Donald Trump, as we were just a moment ago, the hand-wringing, and I'll talk about this a little later in the show, the hand-wringing that is going on currently among some Republican leaders about how to get rid of him has gotten to the point of, many of them are saying they're just simply going to go vote for Hillary Clinton. I don't necessarily have an issue with Trump. There's a handful of Trump supporters, I think, who don't really play very well with other people. But I've got to be honest with you. I would not run off and vote for Hillary Clinton just because Trump was the Republican nominee. There are certain things I just can't condone. We have a caller with us. You're on the air. Hello, caller. Go ahead.
I don't understand the Republican Party, Democrats. You take the end of the Democrats, it's rats, and the Republican is can. I think the can-do should defeat the rats. And if this gentleman who is running the Republican in the Senate lets Obama get over him and put in somebody that they didn't do 2 or 4 years ago when Biden was saying don't do it, they should take them and put them out of office. I'm not too much for the Senate right now or the House, which was run by the Republicans. They better shape up or ship out. Thank you very much.
I think that he just expressed the opinion of most of America. These guys are useless. I mean, let's be honest about it. When I told Benito this morning before I came on air, he had just wrapped up, and I said I think the reason Trump scored his highest numbers so far in Nevada was this was just a week after Mitch McConnell and other leading Republicans in the Senate said we will not have a hearing this year on a replacement for Justice Scalia. And then the next day, other leading Republicans started saying, well, we might have to, just to be friendly, we might have to talk to some of these people. Yeah, well, we could have a vote. Every time, any major issue of the last few years, this McConnell-driven Senate, and it was just as bad under Boehner over in the House and now under Ryan, they'll come up and they'll run up to the line and they'll say, don't cross this line or else. And then the other side comes up and crosses the line, so they back up 6 feet, draw a new line and say, don't cross this line or else. And then Mr. Obama and his minions, they march forward, and Boehner, McConnell, and now Ryan as well, they back up another 6 feet, and they draw a line and say, don't cross this line or else. Come on, folks, give us a break. You want to talk about a bunch of big phonies. And then they cry and whine because the American public is no longer buying their magic elixir. The snake oil is suddenly run dry. And they say, oh, but you can't vote for Trump. Well, you guys aren't peddling anything any better. We've got a break shortly. Bill Colley with you on Top Story on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. If I could tell you quickly, Tint Lady has a new address at 127 Filer Avenue on the corner of Washington Street here in the city of Twin Falls. Yes, Tint Lady has moved. And if you're looking forward to another hot summer with the sun beating through your windows at your home or office, you might give Tint Lady a call because window tints can cut down on nearly 3/4 of that intense heat that's coming through those windows. And we'll tell you right now, you can get a free estimate, 736-8469, or go online at tintladyidaho.com. This is a business that has been in the area for now almost 25 years. And remember, don't squint, get tint.